Welcome to Monster Talks, where we dive deep into the world of marketing, business, and lifestyle podcast. I am your host, Raul Mendoza, and CEO of Monster Link Marketing. Today, I'm really excited because we have the chief and editor of the City magazine, Shelly Mozelle. Hi, Shelly. How's it going?
Good, Raul. It's Friday, so it's good.
Yeah, it's always a good day. It's a Friday. Welcome to the podcast, and thank you for doing this.
Sure.
I wanted to first of all, say that I really look up to the work that you've done for the city. I think it's something that the city needs, and thank you for doing that for the city, because I think putting these things together and being able to highlight people's lives of people that are doing that's like what I'm all about. That's what this whole podcast is about. So I appreciate you for doing it.
Well, thank you. Definitely, I have one of the best jobs in the city, without question.
Yes, definitely. So you and I are like really passionate about El Paso.
Yeah.
You created a magazine called The City. Where does that come from, or where did that?
I think it just encompasses the city, and we really call it regional. So when we're looking at doing editorial pieces and writing things, we're looking at embracing our sister city in Juarez. We look at Las Cruces. So we call it a regional piece. And I think it just came from the passion and the love. I'm not from El Paso. I came here 20 years ago. Dragging my feet, but when I came here, it didn't take very long for me to fall madly in love. So I've called El Paso home for many, many years, and so it's easy to talk about our city, and it was easy to come up with a name for the magazine.
Yeah, really. What inspired you, or what inspires you, like when you look at El Paso? Is it like seeing the people, the culture, the food, the music,
I think
the weather?
If I had to hone in on one thing, it would definitely be the people.
Yeah.
I think we have the most loving, authentic, true, honest people that you can find. And it just showcases over and over. Anytime we have something happen to our city, we all come together. We're not torn apart. And the love that you have, if I break down on the side of the road, I promise you someone picks me up in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You can go to larger cities in Texas than I have lived in, and that's not the case. So if I had to say one thing, it's just the love, and then that of the people. But then it also, people are taught right here. We know right from wrong.
Yeah.
Most of us have some sort of a religious background. We're scared of our moms still, so that's a really cool thing.
Yeah.
So it's just, we say it's a hidden secret, and we use that over and over again. But if I could say that's the tagline to El Paso, I would say we are this hidden secret here.
Yeah, I read an article where you were quoted as saying that El Paso is the country's best kept secret.
It is.
So is that really what you feel?
I
because
really feel that.
Of those things.
For that. And I mean, I lived in Dallas for a while and came back and gained 25 pounds the minute I walked in, and it's because I was eating tacos and tortillas and enchiladas and drinking red beers I came back to this amazing food that I'd forgotten about and kind of was starved when I was living somewhere else. So our food is above and beyond, and our weather, my gosh. Every now and then when someone says, "Oh, but it's windy," I'm like, "Okay, we don't have tornadoes, we don't have hurricanes." So we get a little wind every now and then, but you can golf 85 days out of the year here. Where else can you do that?
Yeah, we're somewhere in the middle, right? We don't get
are.
as hot as Phoenix. We don't get as humid as Dallas and San Antonio, but
that desert, we cool off at nighttime.
Yeah.
And then we're hot in the day, and then we cool off at night. And so, if you had to choose a weather, this is my weather.
Yeah, no, definitely. I love El Paso weather, and just being from El Paso my whole life. I didn't know anything else, but, after traveling some, just going and then I come back and say, it's not that bad, the weather's, we do get some wind from time to time, sometimes, but, when it's good, it's good.
We have no traffic.
And the traffic is not that bad. So I think, but we're starting to see a lot of buildup around the city, and you're starting to see like the Amazon building and a lot of warehouses starting to move in. It's interesting to see what that's going to do to our city, and and it's probably going to bring more people. I know it's bringing investors and people that see opportunity in El Paso. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think the biggest thing that we have to remember is when outsiders are coming in, because I was once an outsider, it's our job to teach them how we live. It's our mindset. They're coming to us, so they need to live like El Pasoans live. If I decided I was going to go to Dallas, I'd have to live like a Dallas person lives.
Yeah.
But I think that's really big that we educate people. And the magazine a few years ago won a big award in New York, and I took my editor at the time, and we went, and we were definitely out. We dressed better than anyone there, which shocked us because it was New York, and it's because our sister city makes us dress the part.
Yeah.
But what was interesting is people said, "My God, you guys are so friendly," and that was the biggest part. Realizing that we are very friendly, we are very talkative, we're very Texan when it comes to that.
Absolutely.
And again, we're just so authentic.
Yeah. No, I love the desert and the open spaces and stuff like that El Paso offers. You've been here in El Paso for some time. Where did you grow up?
So I was born in Carlsbad, New Mexico, and all of my family lived there. But I ended up moving on a ranch in the middle of nowhere outside of Albuquerque. Belen, New Mexico was our closest city. Wow. So I grew up on a ranch. I'm a cowgirl, 100% through and through. I can brand cattle. I can cut cattle. I team rope, ran barrels, rodeoed all my life, dabbled in the horse racing industry. So I'm 100% cowgirl. So I would say the majority of where my roots come from, on a ranch in the middle of nowhere.
Is that the one thing that your readers probably don't know about you?
I have no idea.
They see you and they probably say, she's a city girl.
No,
and she's
not a city girl. Not at all. No, not at all.
And you did that professionally?
Well,
or you did
it's
that
amateur. It was very competitively, absolutely competitively, really on an amateur level.
Yeah.
But I like to team rope. That was my favorite. I like to rope with the guys. We would probably be 90% men, maybe 10% women. That's even stretching it. And I used to tell the guys all the time, I like to take your money. So I'm really competitive. I love roping. I love animals. I love horses. That's kind of where you ground yourself back with your animals. So, yeah.
Is that where your competitive spirit comes from?
So I grew up on a ranch, and I actually grew up, and no one knows this, New Mexico Boys Ranch. That my parents were house parents at the New Mexico Boys Ranch, so I grew up with 60 boys. So I learned to play basketball, and I learned to fight. I learned family, the importance of family. We had 16 boys that lived with us all my life, so you had to be competitive. I had to bale hay as hard as they did. I had to rope better than they did. So yeah.
That's really, really cool. I know you and I had a conversation about that, and that was one thing that was really the takeaway that I got from our conversation was like, wow, Shelly's a badass. I've always wanted, like I've been around, horses and stuff like that, but I've always had the urge to want to take it further and maybe learn roping or learn something else.
You still can.
Yeah.
By the way, there's no age limit.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. I was out at Cattleman's the other day with Mark, and we were doing he was doing the roping practice.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just sitting on the side like, man, that's really cool. Omar was with me, and we got to really get in there, like where they let the calves go and
out of the chutes.
Yeah, out of the chute. It's just like really cool, really exciting. So we got to take some drone shots of that and stuff like that. So
roping is like golfing. There's a handicap. And so everybody has a level. So a beginner has just as good of a place in roping as a professional does.
Really?
So, you should start.
Yeah, there was a girl out there. She was kicking butt.
I bet she was.
She was kicking butt.
When you're in a man's world, you have to work twice as hard to be as tough as they are, because they'll look down at you.
Yeah. So, it was really exciting, and so maybe I can convince Mark to teach me, or maybe I can get out there to do some of that. But it's really exciting. It's I feel it just because, like you said, it's that Texas life. It's that Southwest life.
It's healthy.
Yeah.
You feel healthy, right? You kind of unwind, and your brain just undoes.
I didn't look at my cell phone not one time while I was out there.
Right.
I was just locked in, and that's one of the things that Omar and I were discussing as we were walking off. We're like, man, this is peaceful, man. Like, this is what we're losing today?
Sometimes I just need to smell a horse. And believe it or not, sometimes I just need to go clean a horse pen. And I know that most people would say, are you crazy? But it just takes you back to this peaceful place, and nobody's honking horns and the phone isn't ringing. There's no computer in front of you. Yeah, it's healthy. It's a healthy brain place.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see what he does out there with that, and how many more people, because they're going to open it up to the public to see. So I'm excited. We need it. Was having your own magazine something that you aspired to do growing up, or
absolutely not?
Really?
No, I actually wanted to be a fashion designer, and knew what school I wanted to go to. And my mother, who would have never said anything negative, one day said, I don't know if you're competitive enough for that. And I thought that meant, oh my gosh, I wasn't. So I kind of backed off, and I think that kind of goes to show when words are taken out of context, especially for a young girl, we can take something and it burns in our brain of, hey, maybe I'm not good enough for that. And by the way, she never remembers saying that, but it kind of imprinted on me. And so I thought, I guess I can just be a mother. That's what I'm going to be good at. Thank goodness I moved forward, and I ended up going to be an interior designer, and I studied interior design. And so I like things pretty. Yeah. And that kind of relates back to the magazine. And I actually was running a nice interior design firm. And really? I had a man come in and say, how much money are you making today? And I was raising 2 children by myself, and I gave him a number, and he said, I can pay you 3 times that. And when he said that, I was interested, of course, as a single mom. And I'm going to really date myself, so bear with me here. But he said, I own an independent Yellow Page company. Come to work for me. And I really quickly said, I'm not in sales. I'm a designer, and I like things pretty. But I walked in, and I'm an A student, and he taught me everything he knew about Yellow Pages. Well, I started designing ads, and then ended up here in El Paso, and kind of accidentally fell into a magazine. I made a compliment on a local magazine, and the guy hired me. I came in and worked for him, and then I bought it within a few months. And no, this is not, I know I like to write. I'm not a journalist, but I love to write. But I fell into it, and it just felt easy and natural. You know how sometimes you have these segues of life, and you're like, you're supposed to learn over here, and then you learn over here, and all of it kind of comes into play. That's really what happened with my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the writing part?
I've always been a writer. Interesting that you say this. I have a group of people from my high school that we see each other a lot. My husband says, another family reunion. This is the 4th one this year, or class reunion. But we go back, and I got to see my English teacher, who meant the world to me, and I haven't seen her in all those years. And I handed her a magazine. I said, you're not going to believe what I do. I have magazines. Wow. And she said, Shelly, you were always a writer. And I knew if I could just get you to hush and quit talking in class, you would always be a great writer. So no, I didn't know I was a good writer, but I knew I loved to write. And it kind of shows, you should do what you love.
No, absolutely. I think when you're leading with love, I think, there are no time limits, right? You're going to work.
You're going to work.
And so you were working at the Yellow Pages. Yeah. You're getting started on your career. You have this opportunity come up. And at this point, you never thought about running your own business, running your own magazine?
No, my own business, yes. I've dabbled in my own businesses since I was 22. My children's dad, their family were entrepreneurs, and we actually had 5 pizza restaurants, believe it or not. Wow. So I know the restaurant industry on that end. And then my family was also involved in the bar and restaurant industry, so I knew the entrepreneur world. And so I think I was born to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. I think you either are or you aren't. It doesn't matter. We need everyone. So I knew I would have my own something. Yes. And continue with that. I mean, I'm not done. There's always that need and that fulfillment. But yeah. Entrepreneur always.
I can definitely see that in you. You're an innovator. You're always like trying to move things up. You're hard on yourself. So I see that in you, like always. And I guess that's a trait that I have as well too. And you're just always wanting better and wanting to push yourself to the next level of things and stuff like that.
My mom said something to me, now that, God rest her soul, that I said something negative. My mom said something positive, always positive. I had the best mother a woman could ever have. I was so lucky that I had her. But one of the things that she said to me is, she said, Shelly, roll the dice. Roll the dice. And this was a little bit later in life. And she said, you take it, you do your best educated guess, and then you take the dice and you blow on it and you roll it. Wow. And you do the best you can with the dice that fell in front of you.
That's powerful.
Right?
Yeah. That's some great advice, especially from a parent. Interviewing, Jose, who's an astronaut, and entrepreneurs that I interview, a thing that all of them have in common is somebody believed in them, or somebody just gave them a little nudge to just say, you can do this, just go do it.
I was raised with tons of confidence.
Yeah.
Tons of confidence, because you had to be. With all those boys, I had to be confident.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone ever said the word loser. We weren't allowed to say things like that, and we weren't allowed to bully. We weren't allowed in our family to talk negative. We weren't allowed to say shut up. Wow. Things like that just were never around us. So that instills a bunch of confidence.
Yeah.
And I mean, it goes to an early ingrained thing in you. So once I got past I can't be a fashion designer. And, in all honesty, that was probably all in my head. Somehow I tweaked a weird little comment. But once I got past that, I'm not saying that I don't think I can do anything. But I am going to tell you that if I decide to do something, I'm going to give it 100%. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You roll the dice again.
Yeah. I think because in my story, it's very similar. You are still a fashion designer, with the magazine. You have to put everything together and make it look real pretty. In the photo shoots, you have to stage stuff, and you have to make sure everything is in its place, right? So, I started off in the music industry, and today I still utilize that. So I'm big on sound. I'm big on, and we're still able to do the things that we love, or the things that attracted us to what we initially started off with. And so that's why, I think to this day, I see that background in your work, So it's really cool to see that. How did you come up with the name The City Magazine? Or was that what when you purchased the magazine, was it already The City Magazine?
No, it wasn't. We rebranded it. I actually had another publication for about 4 years, and then my mother was ill, and I left El Paso to go take care of her, and then moved to Dallas thinking, all right, it's time to go to something else, and realized how I missed my people, and all I kept saying is I want to come home. And when I came home, I had a partner in the beginning, and she and I sat down and said, what do we want to call this? Well, we decided with entrepreneur thinking, if we say the city El Paso, then we can say the city Las Cruces and the city San Antonio. And so we really thought we can branch.
Yeah.
So it was just about making sure that the city had a name and a branded name, thinking that we were just going to keep developing this.
Wow. That was smart. And yeah, you gotta make it universal so more people can relate to it and want to read it. You've been telling stories. You've been an editor. All these people that you've interviewed over the years, can you single out one story that really stuck with you, on somebody that you interviewed, or somebody that really stood out to you?
A few, yes. Recents. Crystal Poppin, who has just taken our El Paso music by storm.
For sure.
I believe she opened for Cardi B.
Yep.
And she's such a kind, gentle person. And hearing that she talked about growing up in a poor community here in El Paso, and talked about her father, who was killed. She was an early age, and I think he was killed in maybe some gang-related situation, and how that completely transformed her life. Yeah. So that just grabbed hold of my heart. Yeah. Learning that. I can tell you, Cindy Stout, who's the CEO of El Paso Children's Hospital, interviewing her, she said there was a point in her life where one of her professors said, I think you're in the wrong nursing profession. I think she need to look at another professor. Wow. And then look at her. She's the president and the CEO of El Paso Children's Hospital. So there's always that piece where I see a woman who got slapped, or man. Yeah. Like when they get slapped, I say this all the time. Oprah Winfrey said it best when she says, "Who decides how long you have to stay down? You do." And so you hear people, a slap that some people would have stayed down and crawled, and they use it as an excuse to lay in the mud.
Yeah.
But then I'm gravitated toward those people that get to pick themselves back up and become what I really believe God intended them to become. I don't want to go off on some religious thing, but I'm very spiritual, and that's in the back of my head of, what's our intention and what's our purpose in life. And so those are two stories, because they're recent. They happened in the last year and a half that just still are top of mind for me.
Really? And how do you choose, what pieces, or what do you like to write about yourself personally?
So we celebrate all the good things going on in the city, which is nice. I don't talk about anything negative. We don't do restaurant reviews, because I don't want to walk into your restaurant on a bad day and ruin it for you.
Yes.
So it's always good things in the city. I can tell you there's a list miles long of things we want to write about, and it's really difficult. We try to not always write about someone who you're going to see in the news all the time. We try to write about people who may have the unsung heroes.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
We had a story a couple years ago. I lose track of time, but a few years ago, we were talking about heroes. It was our hero issue.
Yeah.
And there was a young man who was driving down the road on his first date, and he looked over and he saw a house on fire. And he stopped the truck, ran in, and came carrying out a woman out of a wheelchair. And he got her out just in time, and the house went up in flames. Wow. And like the unsung hero, that nobody really knew that song. Yeah. And, I wished I could ask that young woman if they got married, because I don't know, if some guy did that in front of me, I'd have probably held on to him for a long time.
Yes.
But those kind of stories that, just kind of go by the wayside.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love stories and just telling stories. I know, there's been some really influential people that have come through El Paso, and finding those unsung heroes, I think, is important as well. I know recently, like 2 days ago, J.J. Arms passed away, right?
Yes.
And do you have anything? Did you ever cross paths with J.J. Arms?
I did meet him one time. He was very eccentric. And it's interesting that you say that. I've really been thinking, my husband is in law enforcement.
Yeah.
And so, anyone in law enforcement has an appreciation for what he did, and the highlight that he brought. But I did get to meet him. He talked about exotic animals that he had at his home, which I don't even know if that's allowed to say. I mean, he's passed away. He can't get mad at us for that. But now I think back and think, I don't know if you're allowed to have those exotic animals. Yeah. But I just think he was so eccentric and so special. And, you look at a young man who lost his arms at an early age, and look at what he became. Like, he let no obstacle get in his way.
Yeah,
so that's kind of the takeaway with him.
Yeah, I see that. Because I don't think that J.J. Arms is his real name.
No.
When I read his story, he was born to Hispanic parents here in El Paso. He grew up in the Lower Valley. He went to Isleta High School. He was playing around in a rail yard, and he found two torpedoes that they used to blast the railways, and that's what blew his arms off. He was with his friend, and they had to amputate his arms, right? But then he uses that and turns around, goes to Hollywood, goes to California, starts getting acting role and gets this role in, I think, Hawaii Five-0.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was in Hawaii Five-0. He played like the nemesis or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. So I thought it was really interesting to know that. And, he was kind of a mysterious character. If you, myself, because he grew up in the Lower Valley, and he had a zoo in the Lower Valley.
I know.
He had tigers, he had chimps, he had, you name it. He had all sorts of different animals there. And, he used to have a black limo. I don't know if you remember
No,
this.
I don't remember the limo.
Yeah, he had a limo, and then he had this guy that would drive him around, and he'd be like in this military attire, and then he would open the back for him. And, he ran for, I think he was on city council.
He was in government.
Yeah, and he did a couple of things, and, his profession was being a private investigator. Mm-hmm. But, I thought it, just wanted to mention him because he was pretty prominent or well-known El Pasoan for a long time.
For a long time
that
he
did.
Anytime somebody positively, or sometimes negative is fine, but anytime someone positively talks about El Paso, saying that they're here from El Paso, it's so good for us.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought about this a minute ago when you're talking about music. So we were doing a story on Khalid, and no one knew who he was. He was young. He was still in high school. And I remember my editorial team saying to me, hey, we have this great musician, and we think we should put him on the cover. And I'm like, ugh, no. And then it was like 3 months later, he blew up. And we've teased me forever that I made the mistake of not putting Khalid on the cover before he was found and noticed and everything.
Wow.
But he had a great story.
So you ended up writing the story on him?
We wrote a story for him, but it was a story in.
Okay.
And actually, I recently did an interview with his mother. Yeah. And we did the story on his mom.
Yeah.
And how a single mom and what she did for him and, being in a military background. So anyway, anybody that talks about El Paso and still calls El Paso home, you get some love from me.
I see it as a positive thing. There are some people, and I got the chance to interview Linda, and she gets a lot of that where people's like, well, technically he's not from El Paso, but he's representing El Paso, and he's bringing that positivity back to our city, so we should embrace it. So. Right. I got a chance to interview her, and just hearing that she chose to come to El Paso because of the weather was something that blew my mind too, because that's how people sometimes make decisions. It's like,
well, and she's a special woman.
Yeah.
When you raise someone as strong as him and as smart as him, and to be able to give them enough confidence, because the music world is a rough world to break into. We all know that. And she stood behind his back. Obviously, she runs his foundation now. But she stood behind him and pushed him as hard as she could push him in a healthy sort of way. It's impressive, again, as a single mom. And I lean towards singles moms. I know how hard that is.
Yeah, I was reading I was listening to a podcast on my way over to work today, and it just blew my mind. They were talking about like single mothers.
Yeah.
And that the statistic today is that 40% of children born today are born to single mothers today. It used to be 8% in 1940.
Wow.
And it's now up to 40%. And that number is going up. What do you think that's happening? Especially in El Paso, I know it's a big thing. When I try to think about it, I analyze that number. I'm like, well, is it because myself growing up poor, sometimes the dad won't want to put their name so they can get benefits and, things like that. Do you think it's that, or do you think it's actually what's happening?
I think we've raised women. We say you can be anything you want to be. Yeah. And we've raised them to be this huge powerhouse. I think you have to be careful with that, because we've raised women to be such a powerhouse that there's a point where we think, well, I don't need a man. And I can do this by myself. And the answer is yes, you can.
Yes.
But coming from a woman who didn't have a man, I got divorced at a young age. You looking back, and I think, I let the outside world influence me on decisions being made that I wished I hadn't have. But, you go with it. But I think these young women, that can they do anything they want? Yes. Is it harder? Okay.
Yes.
There's this strength of how strong is a finger like this? We're pretty strong, but how strong is this? Much stronger. And I just think that we've in the 60s, we taught our women in the 60s, hey, raise our children and our girls especially to be whatever they want to be, and that's kind of passed on. But I see a turn coming up. Yes. I see a turn of people really grounding again in family. And, sometimes there's circumstances that you can't help it, and you just do the best you can with that circumstance. But I also think that, sometimes we get away from what commitment is, and commitment isn't always do it my way or do it your way. Commitment really is meet in the middle, and, maybe we kind of stepped out of maybe some religious beliefs at certain points, and commitment on that, on both sides of the fence. And so, I say the word healthy, but, I can tell you, I had a therapist tell me something once that changed my whole outtake on marriage and relationships. And she said, never, never, never date anyone who has baggage. And I said, okay, come on, we all have baggage at our age. And she said, no, we don't. We all have history. Baggage is unresolved issues. And gotcha. So, sometimes I think if there's an education piece where we can educate men and women about dating healthy, that have taken care of their unresolved issues, maybe the future would stay together a little better.
Yes.
In commitment situations. Wow, you just took me deep, didn't you?
Yeah, maybe it might be something we should be teaching in schools, maybe. And, it's because it's difficult. I grew up without a father, and not having that male role model is difficult. I found it in my coaches and stuff like that. But yeah, for some of these kids that don't have that, you're going to miss out a big piece. So I do think that's why I am a big advocate of, even if things don't work out, I think a father needs to be part of that child's life.
100%. My kids will tell you their dad and I have always had a great relationship.
That's great.
And they have a great relationship with their dad. So I don't think that my daughter has daddy issues. Her dad was a fantastic dad. I know my son is very close to his. And it is important. It's one of those things that if you get a divorce, I think you have to say, well, that divorce is between you and me.
Yep.
Has nothing to do with my children.
Exactly.
And our kids should, unless there's abusive situations,
Absolutely.
we could go extreme here.
Yeah.
But, I think that's the most mature thing that parents can do is if they do get a divorce or if they've never gotten married or whatever that situation should be, that fathers should be involved with their children. It's a balance. We're supposed to have two people.
Yes.
And it can be done. There's no set pathway. I don't think I ever read a book that really was a perfect book to the perfect world.
Yes.
But it is about being selfless with your children. And I remember calling my children's dad often say, hey, your daughter needs a date. I can see she needs date night with daddy. And he would jump in the car and have a date with her.
That's
so, children can be well balanced no matter what, but it is our job as a parent to make sure that we give them the best balance possible.
Absolutely. I always say, if something happens to you, that's the only other person in the world that's going to take care of your child just like you would.
That's exactly right.
So and I hear that a lot because sometimes, with males, like, oh, man, it's because, she's this way and she's that way. And I have to remind them of that. If something ever happens to you, that's the only other person that's going to look out for your child as much as you would.
Absolutely.
So I think it is important. And I think it's something we have to bring back and have to continue to push, especially in El Paso, especially in a heavy Hispanic community that people have to be there and their kids need their fathers. Sometimes you have these situations where because of the anger, what happened in the relationship, that sometimes the woman will push the man out and won't let them be part of their kid's life. And that can be a problem too.
It can, because, like it or not, women kind of have the control when they go into courtroom. Yeah. And it's sad for men, but it is. A woman can either make that situation healthy for the kids, or they can make it really, really hard for a dad to parent his children.
Yes.
There's roles we all have to play, and really the first role should be thinking about the love of our children. And I think if everyone comes to that saying what's best for this kid, then 90% of the time they're going to find out both of you are best in whatever role that is.
Yeah. And the kid grows up and eventually they get to see this situation as it is, right? So, yeah, it's difficult not having my father for probably, he was never in my life, and recently started to reach out to me, in his late 70s, in his mid to late 70s, he started to reach out to me. And at this point, I've let go of all anger. And my son's like, Dad, how can you do that? Like, I'm like, well, I'm doing it for myself too, like, I don't want to hold on to that anger, and I want to be okay. And, as a father now, I understand now how people can make mistakes, and that sometimes life gets tough and it goes by quick.
I was really, really lucky because my mother taught me that lesson. When she and my dad got divorced, she encouraged any relationship she could. So I really grew up knowing I have two parents on each side. I have two dads and I have two moms. I have a stepmom that is unbelievable. Wow. Love her to the nth degree. And then I even hate to say the word step. It feels like I'm with Cinderella saying ugly words.
Yeah. I feel the same way about my stepkids. When I say stepkid, I don't like to say that.
I hate to say it.
Yeah.
But I was lucky that I had two male figure men in my life that brought two different aspects. One was an entrepreneur. The other was a Baptist deacon. So don't ask how, how those worked.
Yeah.
And then two women that, my mom is gone, but my stepmother is still here. I don't call her that. I just say, here's my other mother.
Yeah.
But I love that I have her. And family, who defines family? Family are the people who love you. And I don't know about you, but I've never had too much love.
Absolutely. Yeah, I believe in that. And I think, family could be just people that are the community is coming together to push you up and to push you to the next level. Who were your early inspirations? Was it your mom, your stepmom, or did you have I know you mentioned your English teacher?
I would say 1,000,000% my mother. My mom, for a woman to take 16 kids plus her 3 and raise them, and they called her mom.
Yes.
And,
wow.
That's a gift. And then to have the best mom.
Absolutely.
She really was. She balanced discipline with love. We knew that if we crossed a line, she pulled a shoe off and she chased us down the road with it. I did it to my kids.
She gave you the chancla, huh?
Chancla, we got it. And then, but I also knew that she had my back no matter what. I knew that when I needed something, I called her. And so my mom was definitely my number. She actually, you'll love this. I was very cowgirl, really bad, really rough. And my mother, my junior year, I got in too many fistfights with the boys and in high school. Oh, I know. And my mom was like, okay, this is actually between sophomore and junior year. And so my mother made me go to a modeling school in Albuquerque. And I wore my boots and my spurs and my ponytail into a modeling school. And she didn't think my 5'3" was going to be a model. She knew I needed some finishing. And my mom was quite the lady. And so for 2 years, I had to go to a modeling school. And thank God, because now I wear high heels all day long. I say my logo should be a high heel with a spur on it. But the fact that she realized I was way heavy one direction, and that wasn't probably going to be my whole future. She just took directions. I think that's one of the cool things about parents. They never quit parenting us. To this day, I call my dad. He's 83 years old. And if I have a business question, he is the number one person I call in a business question. And he'll give me the straight, direct answers. So I just think that's cool that parents don't quit parenting. We don't get to.
Yeah, no, you never stop parenting. And, it's, I have a son now in college and stuff, and it just blows my mind. You still worry. You still, you're still on top of that. But anyways, I wanted to ask you a little bit more questions about the City magazine.
Sure.
So what were what were the early days of the City magazine?
Oh my gosh. The early days, I came in weighing 110, and I think I left weighing 99 after the first 6 months. Wow. It was a lot. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of struggle. We really didn't have a magazine in El Paso, so there was a ton of education on why you needed one and what it meant and what it would be like to have one. There was some kickback. I remember I was speaking at UTEP, and there was a panel, 3 people in a panel, and a young man in the very back stood up and said, "Wow, what made you, as a white woman, think that you could do something in a Hispanic community that no one has ever done before?" And I remember looking at him and I said, "I'm white? I don't even know what that means." And I realized at that age, and I was 35-ish, that because of my upbringing, the boys that lived with us, we didn't see a nationality. We didn't see religion. We didn't see color. And that was the first time I ever felt like someone pointed me out for a skin color, which was strange.
Wow.
So then I realized, oh my gosh, I really am in a heavily Hispanic community. And I'm a woman, do they really care? So it was a little mind thing for about a month where I finally said, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. But were there struggles? Oh my gosh, of course there were. I didn't know anybody here. I didn't know anyone. I didn't go to school with anybody. So there were struggles, but there was never a question in my mind that this was going to work and this is where I was supposed to be. And I look back now and think, man, you should have probably gone a different direction. There were a lot of brick walls I ran into. But people were good. People in El Paso, they'll tell you no, but they're nice to you.
Yeah.
They're nice. They're not right now.
Yeah.
But they're not rude. we just don't have that here.
Yeah. What were some of the challenges being chief and editor? What are some of the biggest challenges to having that role?
Managing people. It's it's the hardest thing I do and the thing I don't like doing.
Yeah.
I don't like hiring. I don't like having 2 empty available positions and interviewing 20 people and have to tell 18 of them no.
Yes.
It's heartbreaking for me.
Yeah.
I don't like having to let someone go. And I've learned a technique with that I was taught by a mentor. So that's hard. I almost always cry. Like if I'm going to have to let you go, almost every time I cry. It's hard for me. Now there's a hard side. Let's not pretend there isn't. There's a point in me, if you're disrespectful, my head will spin. Like that's just not allowed. So I would say that managing is really, really hard. And the work ethic of people, it takes you about 3 months to see someone's work ethic. And then when they don't have the work ethic you need and that you've asked them for, it's really hard to say, hey, this isn't a position for you. So if I have a difficulty at all, that's the difficulty to this day on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's hard when you got a big heart but you're trying to run a business.
And so
you're
like
balancing
this. I need someone else to come in and handle that part.
Yeah,
it's my weakness.
Yeah, I go home sometimes with decision fatigue. I just had too many decisions to make, and by the time I get home, I don't want to make any more.
You know what? I call myself the fireman. Like
Really?
I'll wake up in the morning, I'm like, I just feel like I put out a bunch of fires.
Yeah.
And I'll have 10 fires to put out. And thank God somehow there's one person that sends an email and says, oh my God, I love the article. It changed my daughter's life. And you're like, that's why I do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to somebody who's just getting started off but wants to go into the world of media and being an editor, going into this world?
Have $500,000 that you can spend. And I just think hire people with ethics. It's one of the things, I actually learned this from my husband in his interview process. He says, we're not looking for perfect people. We're looking for perfectly honest people. And I think that's the biggest thing is hiring people that have work ethic.
Yes.
Check resumes. There's always something to that. You finally get into a community where you can all talk to each other kind of behind closed doors to find out who your good, ethical, hard worker people are. And then just to know that you're going to clean the toilets. You're going to take out the trash. You think it looks glamorous, but I took the trash out today. I don't think you ever quit doing that. And, my son told me one time I was frustrated that people weren't working to the ability I thought they should be. And he said, they don't own this, right? You're the one that owns this, right? And so when he said that, I'm like, oh, you're right. You can't expect people to work as hard as you do and as long as you do and to put all the blood, sweat, and tears in it that you do. So you kind of have to adjust your belief system on what you think everyone else has to give. And then I think the biggest thing is you find out what makes one of your employees tick. So I have an employee who they are moved by money. The more they sell, the better they are. And I have another employee who needs a pat on the back every single day.
Yes.
And then I have some other people that need hard knocks. They need you to bring in and say, okay, 15 minutes late every single day. That's so rude to me. Let's bring in some discipline. So you kind of have to figure out, are you patting somebody on the back? Are you giving them a gift certificate?
Yes.
Or are you just making sure that they get a spiff because that's what motivates them? And that's really hard when you have a fairly big, she's going to shoot me for saying this, but I have my operation manager, her name is Maudie Van Pelt. And one day she's like, oh, I hate it when I feel like I'm disappointing you. I'm like, don't disappoint me ever. And if you quit, I quit. Like, I can't do this without you.
Sure.
And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't given her enough kudos. What am I thinking? I put so much pressure on her, and I haven't told her enough times how important she is to me. Look, I'm going to get tears in my eyes over it, right?
There's more work than just running the business.
Oh my goodness.
You have to know how to work with people. I've literally gone back to like reading books on it just because I have to better understand it.
Yeah.
A lot of times, my fiance would say, Raul, like, you're just too blunt. You're blunt. Ooh. And you say shit just
say it.
And so I have to figure out ways and come back. And, if I'm upset at the moment, I'll like go breathe and kind of think about what I want to say and how I want to say it, and then come back to the table because, you do have different people. Everybody has their own personality. You got to know how to, how to move them along. I think that's when you're a really good leader, when you know how to manage your team and you know how to bring the best out of people.
You know, I have a saying, I don't know where it came from, but it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Exactly.
And I also learned something early on. My children were little, and I was going a children's service at the church, and I took a toothpaste and a toothbrush, and I had a little kid come up, and I said, "Here, put some. You want to do this?" And he'd put some on. I said, "Do you want to make a mess?" Yeah. And he made a mess, and they squished and they squished, and the mess was all over the place. And I said, "Okay, now that we're done, let's clean your mess up. Put the toothpaste back in the tube." And the little 3-year-old said, "Oh, you can't do that." And I said, "Well, that's like the words that come out of our mouth. Mm-hmm. They can come out, and we can say we're sorry, and we made a mess, but we can never put them back in." So words are so powerful on both levels.
Yes.
I try really hard not to have to put the toothpaste back in.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I always try to be careful of what I say because I don't want to regret it. And or, I'll come back and I'll apologize if I have to. Because, like everybody has different temperance and how they're going to deal with stuff. And so I have to be careful with that. It's one of the big things that I'm learning after 12 years, and I'm still always learning and still trying to. I'm actually reading Jocko Wilkins' book. He was an ex-Navy SEAL on leadership.
Oh, wow.
And right now, so I'm always trying to educate myself. I do like 3 months, I'm going to learn like management and leadership, and then I'm going to do 3 months where I'm going to learn about finances, and I'm going to do 3 months, and I just try to better myself in that way because, it's paid its dividends. I remember Alan Krasny one time. I used to work for the Krasnys over at Alamo Auto Supply, and I came in and I had done this presentation. He says, "Ro, you're like really smart, but you talk over people's heads." And I was like, I left that thinking like, what the hell is he thinking? Like, I'm running my own business on the side. I'm making $100,000 a year on that. Like, I know what I'm talking about. And then I just came to the realization, like, you know what? Maybe he's right. I need to pick up a book. And then I went and picked up Pitch Anything by Orem Clough, which is a really good book on pitching if you guys want to learn a little bit more about pitching. And it talks about the psychological side of pitching. And it really opened my eyes. And I'm really thankful that he said that to me because, sometimes we need that. Like you said, you need somebody to come and just tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, there's a better way. You can do this better. So I really believe in that. And now as we get bigger, like I was stressed out even managing 8 people. Now that we're like at 14, it's
it's a lot.
It's a lot to manage, So sometimes I come in and I have to literally block off my time because it's people coming in and, hey, I need Sunday off because I'm going to go here, or hey, and it's just all of this stuff that you have to do on top of your work. So you have to find out a good way. And I'm always asking other entrepreneurs, like, how do you do it? Like, what's your routine? And, that's how I picked up the blocking off time and, get your workout in the morning rather than the afternoon and stuff like that can help you go to the next level. But what are some of your tips for like when somebody asks you about running your own business?
Well, basically I tell them, first of all, just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's going to work if you haven't done all the homework. And when people talk about business plans, well, I kind of put a business plan together. Well, kind of doesn't work. It needs to be a strategic business plan. And I mean, come on, you can Google it.
Yes.
But the first thing you would do is put a business plan together. And then if the business plan says you need $100,000, know that you need $400,000.
Yes.
And know that you need to know where that's going to come from, because just because you have a great dream and even the knowledge to pull it off doesn't mean that you can financially make it on the backside. I just think business plans are huge. I think internship is free. You work for free.
Yes.
At someone in an internship.
Did you ever do any internships in your career?
We didn't really do that back then. I mean, I worked as a waitress, so I learned how to run a restaurant.
Yeah.
But we didn't know it was an internship.
Yes.
And I hire interns all the time right now, and I tell them when I meet them, you have a 3-month internship with me, and just know that I fire interns. So if you're not 100%, you're not here to learn, and you're not here to learn everything you could potentially learn, you're not going to work with me very long. And I ask them, what do you want to learn here? Well, I want this, I want this, I want this. And I make sure if they come into an internship piece with me, that I give them as much as I can on their list. And then I encourage them to work different locations, that you learn a different management style, definitely learn how to work with different coworkers. And, you know, first of all, you learn if you want to be in an entrepreneur role or if you want to go into a corporate world. And so I think that's the biggest key. If somebody said, hey, I want to run a magazine, I'm like, you need to intern for about 6 months and then see if you really want to.
What's one question that you always ask somebody when they come to try to work for you?
Usually I tell them that the most important thing I'm going to need from you is I need you to be ethical. And so if you can't look me in the eye and say, look, I'm ethical, I'm going to find out and you're not going to work here. Yeah. And then I always tell them that we don't like bullies. I don't like bullies. All those fights I told you I got to when I was young, it was because someone was bullying someone. And here would come my skinny little 96-pound rear getting in a fight trying to save somebody. So I've always saved those underdogs. So I tell people when you come in, if you're a bully and you have that mentality, I promise you won't last here. You know, I think we're all a family, and we end up spending more time at work than we really do at home. And so you got to love your family. And this is my home, and I control my home, and I'm the head of the home. And so what I say goes. And so what I say is, we don't bully. We're not ugly to each other. I mean, can you be off color sometimes and say things you're all laughing? But I tell them if something offends you, you have to let us know. You can't sulk up about it. So those are kind of like introduction conversations when someone's and especially when they're young. You know, they've not been in the workforce and they have no idea. And then I also tell them perception is reality. You know, we're in the magazine world. And so you can't come in a halter top and you can't come in short shorts because you can't go out on the street looking like that because people are going to say, what are you selling? You know, so you're an extension of me. So you have to always know you're an extension of me. So, you know, we've got a good team because of it. There's no questions after. When you get done with an interview, you know exactly where you stand and what we expect from you. Yes.
One of the questions I ask people all the time when they come to interview with me is, if money wasn't an object and you had all the money in the world, what would you be doing? And I ask that question because I want to know if our goals align. You know, if they say, hey, well, I want to go, you know, be in the rodeo, then I tell them, what are you doing here? Like,
that makes sense.
Go be in the rodeo, go do what you love, because when you're doing that, you're going to work like with passion. You're going to do what, you know, so I try to align with the goals. If their goal is to one day run their own business, I say, great, you're going to learn a lot, because you're interacting with me every day. I'm one of those owners that I'm an open book, and I'm going to tell you guys everything. We have one meeting a week. So I'm always letting people know, you know, what's going on, the goods, the bads. If they tell me, hey, I want to pursue a career in film, I say, this is great, because you're going to learn how to edit on the fly. And so I make sure that those goals align. And that's one of the things that I look for, is to make sure that those goals align. And that's how I tend to find, you know, really good people. Most of the people that work for me, you know, have worked for me over 5 years, you know, so it's one of those things that I feel like if I can help them get to their goal, they're going to be happy working here, you know, so I try to make sure of that. But yeah, definitely what your son said about it's not their business. They don't love, it's one of those things that I had to learn for sure. And I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk that had said that, like, even if you get 80 out of them or you get 75, you know, you have to.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So
it has to be acceptable.
Yes, absolutely. So it's one of those things that I'm constantly always trying to improve here, is like trying to, you know, keep the energy good in the office. I think that's an important thing for me, is make sure that people vibe with the energy that we have here, and people are kind. I think that's a big thing here. Absolutely. Is that everybody is really kind. Everybody gets along. From time to time, you know, there will be that argument, but I want to work with reasonable people.
I'm with you. And I mean, families argue. So you know that's going to happen. Like, we become a family. Families argue, but they fix it, they forgive, and they go on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to do. But I know you have a lot of historical photos. When I was in your office, you had some really cool pieces. What's your favorite, and what's the story behind that piece?
You know, I don't know that I have a favorite, but I can tell you a few favorites. I love that I was able to find the first law enforcement, and they're all horseback, and have them in my office. I've carried it from office to office to office. I love the history of Paso del Norte Hotel.
The first law you have the picture. You have a picture of the first law enforcement team, or the first.
They were called the first law enforcement. So they were like the police. They were our first police, and there's about 25 of them.
What year was that?
Oh, I don't know, early 1800s.
Really?
And they were all horseback. You can tell by the saddles that they had on and stuff that it was 1800s.
Yeah.
And so I love that piece because I think El Paso is really strong in our law enforcement. You know, we're safest per capita, and the top 10 safest per capita for the last 15, 20 years, we ranked up in the third. And being a border city,
yes,
people will ask me, oh my gosh, are you scared? I'm like, no, not scared. Because our law enforcement does such a good job, because our border patrol does such a good job. And so that means something to me when I see that. You know, it started back in the day.
Wow.
You know, there were gun fights on the streets. We all know about that. But we've kept it so as clean, I think, as we could. And I mean, kudos to them. So that law enforcement piece. Now, but then, you know, you talk about architecture. And when you go in our old hotels that are downtown, and you know, thank God people have poured their hard-earned money into restoring this, because you and I both remember when downtown was a little scary to walk.
Yes.
And the buildings were all empty. And, you know, now we have this thriving downtown, and we have all these new hotels, you know, that are everywhere. So I love the historic part of the hotels.
Yes.
And every time I'm touring, I'll learn one more thing. You know, the Tiffany Dome, we're going to argue if it's a Tiffany Dome or not, but I believe it is, so I'm going to go with it. That's in the Paso del Norte. You know, it's the biggest of its kind. And when people go in and look up, they're like, what? This was what? And, you know, to know that that's where all the cattlemen came.
Yeah.
And they stayed there on the border when they were crossing their cattle, which is why upstairs some of the cattle, the names are all cattle names in some of the banquet areas and stuff. I don't know. We're just so historic. But yeah, I love our downtown.
How do you get a lot of those historical pieces? Is it just you find them and then you blow them up because you like them?
I went to the library and I went
okay.
crazy. I'm like, you stick me on something and you have to pull me back off.
Really?
So I went to the library and I just thumbed through and spent hours and hours and hours.
Wow.
UTEP has a bunch of resources. Our library here has a bunch of resources. And I just went and dove in, and then you buy them.
Yeah.
And you have to tell them what you're going to use them for. And that's the price, depending on the price.
Wow.
When I said artwork up on the walls, one-time use, that's, you know, a certain price. So they're very important to me.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I'm going to need to get some of those pieces for my new office as well, too, because Caleb that was here was talking about spending hours and hours at the UTEP library. He says they have so many historical pieces that you'll just stay there all day.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you'll stay till they close.
Just thumbing through things. So I thought it was pretty interesting. And we want to do like this historical piece because I enjoyed just our conversation so much. So we want to do like this ongoing historical piece because there's so many stories. And the more that I dig, the more pieces that I'm finding. So
we take it for granted, you know?
Yeah.
Being an El Pasoans just completely take it for granted until you take them into something and say, did you know this in this building? And did you know the tunnels were underneath? And, you know, I've been in the tunnels underground, which are so cool. During the Revolution, you know, over our train station in the downtown area, that's still a thriving train station, to know that Pancho Villa would go down underneath and go up and go all the way to the bell tower and watch the Revolution. And then when it was getting too close, he would go down and he would scurry and hide underneath. I mean, that's cool stuff.
Yeah. I was reading, too, that people used to go up to the Paso del Norte and watch, like, the war going on from up there.
Yeah.
That's like...
I mean, a lot of outlaws were there.
Yeah.
A lot of times, cattlemen and outlaws, you know, sometimes they cross a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's so historic.
It's really interesting. What do you think about the new, the Plaza Park that they're thinking of doing the overpass? So
I've learned not to get too excited until it's a done deal. You know, We have La Nube, the children's museum that just opened, and
beautiful place.
Forgive me if I give the things wrong, but it like took 12 years to get that in.
Wow.
So I've learned not to get too excited about it, but I am excited. I think it's going to be really neat. My understanding is part of it's funded and part of it isn't, and so it's not a done deal yet, my understanding. But when it's finished, I like to know, okay, what's the completion date?
Yes.
You know, when is that happening? When do I get to be excited about it?
Yes, I think that would be really cool for our community. And we need more like cool parks that people can get together and celebrate the holidays and stuff like that. So I'm really excited if they make that happen, to see what's going to come out of it, because I think it'll be cool. And then it'll be a whole tunnel going through under that whole area right now.
And it's going to resemble, where is it? There's a tunnel. Is it in Phoenix? Yeah. Yeah. Trying to think where it was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if another city has it, we deserve it.
Yeah. I think we can
Why
do it.
Why wouldn't we?
Yeah. And we're growing. And I think like with the growth, you know, it's more people are paying attention to the stuff here. We've got some really talented artists. We've got some really talented, just talent across the board here in El Paso. And I think with the internet now, it's allowed us to go out and compete in that world as well too.
You know, I'm involved with a project that some people know about and some people don't. It's a nonprofit, and it's called the El Paso Children's Garden. Have you heard about it?
Yeah.
It's a 60-acre, 10-event venue that's coming, and we're working on the funding part of that right now. But it's going to be a beautiful botanical garden that will bring so many tourism dollars to El Paso.
Where's that going to be located?
When you're driving to Las Cruces, Vinton Exit 2, you'll go over the Rio Grande, and Bosque is a road right by Bosque, and it's right on the corner.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to be amazing. And botanical gardens, there's 121 million people that go to a botanical garden in the United States every year. So why wouldn't we get part of that?
I think that's
I'm excited about that.
I think that's a great idea. We need more things like that.
We do.
We have a lot of families, you know, so I think, you know, having that makes sense for our families.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
I ask this question a lot to people, but in your opinion, who is the most influential person to ever live in El Paso?
Well,
or one of them, because I know it's hard.
Okay, wait a minute. You're going to laugh. So you know Elizabeth Taylor lived here for a while, right?
Yes.
So I love it. She was here just while she was filming The Giant, and she was. So I'm trying to think who I think the most influential. It would have to be probably in the architectural end of things. I don't know. I don't
maybe
know
Henry Trost or something you're thinking.
Listen, to know that Henry Trost built buildings in Chicago, but came to El Paso and chose to build all of our foundation buildings downtown.
Yes.
And then of course we have some up in different neighborhoods. So maybe Trost is the most important. You know, I have all the Trost stuff in my office. Okay, I'm going to go with Trost. Yeah. Trost is probably the most influential, that his name is still being utilized today. And then we're still living in the buildings that he built, you know, all these years later. And, okay, I'm going with Trost.
Yeah,
Henry Trost.
I think that's a good pick. I would agree with that. He's definitely on the top 10 there.
He is.
Yeah, because like you said, his name is on everything.
I got to walk
he's still
through
being
the
talked
home,
about.
His home. And I don't know if they're still doing tours, but I got to walk through his home. And
what was that like?
Very modern, not, you know, it had like Native American influence a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you can now, once you've gone through his home, you can see downtown where his influences came from.
Yeah, he's definitely up there on the top 5, top 10. And he did houses, he did buildings.
Everything.
He's got a building in, is it Tucson or Phoenix? In Phoenix too, I think.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
So I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I know Chicago. And I knew, I think at one point we had 23 buildings here, and I think we're down to 12 or 13.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got one in Phoenix. I did some photography because I do a lot of drone work and stuff like that. So I wanted to go out there, and I was able to capture it on camera.
Oh, wow.
So it was cool. But it looks a lot like the buildings here in El Paso.
It does.
Yeah. So he's got that style.
He does.
Let me ask you an El Paso question.
Oh,
is El Paso high haunted?
Yes. Yes.
What are your thoughts on, or what have you seen? Have you ever been out there at night?
Yes, I've been to El Paso Tide many times. Yes, you can feel it when you walk in.
Is it the field or like that front part there?
Oh boy, you're going deep on me. I just don't believe that we can have the history that we have today, that somehow, my son's going to get mad at me for talking about this, that somehow spirits can't get stuck and not move on to other sides. Haunted could be good and bad. Do I think that there's evil in El Paso High? No. Do I think that there's still spirits there? 100%.
Yeah, I felt it too, being there at night, and nobody's there. You look up at the windows, and there's a lot of windows up there, and you do feel this energy there. I was talking to Caleb about the basement, that it was used during the Spanish flu. That's where they housed people, and it still exists today. There's still classrooms down there.
And I mean, how many bodies died there? And to think that a body dies and doesn't leave some sort of a cell of a spirit or something. But I'm so glad we have it, and I'm glad we still use it.
Yes.
And I haven't heard high school kids saying they're scared there. But I think the older you get, the more you learn about life. I mean, I remember being there, actually doing a fashion show, and felt when I could feel from walking from the hot to the cold to the hot.
You had a fashion show inside of the gym, or where
I
was
actually
it?
just helped with one.
Oh, okay.
I think El Paso Children's Hospital was doing a fundraiser there, and so I helped with that. And that was the time that I was back by myself in the quiet.
Was it at night?
It was in the evening.
Yeah, it was at night. So you feel it. I felt it too. We'll definitely have to do. I would love to do like an interview there on site.
Like ghost story. Nighttime.
Just kind of like a ghost story. But people in El Paso, they a lot of people seem to talk about Gadsden too.
I haven't. No, I've been to Gadsden, but only in the daytime. So I haven't been there at nighttime. And when I was there, my head was in another place, so I wasn't like feeling.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I think there's a lot of our buildings. I know some buildings downtown that definitely do, that I've officed out of late at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one?
I'm trying to think. It's on the square. What is the name of the building on the square? It faces...
is it the Cortez?
It's a Cortez. So I used to office on the 6th floor of the Cortez. And it was October, and we were doing some sort of a haunting series or whatever. And so I had a couple guys with cameras, and of course I had keys to everything. So we waited till late at night, and there was on the 8th floor, there was a space at the girls' restroom where when I would run up to the 8th floor of someone else's, our bathrooms, I would run up and use the restroom, and I could feel the hot cold. Ooh, this is spooky. And so they had the cameras on me. And they said, show us where it is. Just show us. They were these ghost hunter people or whatever. And I went and I stood and I said, okay, I can feel it right now. And they said, keep the cameras on her. And so I was standing there, and they said, what do you feel? And I said, I feel a little girl standing next to me, about this tall. And she had a petticoat dress. And then she put her arms around my waist like this. And they said, we can see her right now. And so they said, she's trapped here. And there was a fire in the building, and when it was a hotel back in the day, and JFK was there, I think 2 days before he was killed on his way to Fort Worth, Dallas area. And so there's been so much history, but they told me this little girl is there and she's trapped, and she's holding on to you because you're a mother and you're safe. And I felt her arms around me, and I could see this shadow. And that was probably the first time that I saw something in a camera. And they said, you need to ask her to leave and tell her mom's not here and she needs to go on. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Sorry, not doing that. I'm not getting involved with this. And they said, well, that little girl's trapped. And they kept speaking to me saying, just do it. And I'm like, what do I have to lose? So I said it. Okay, your mom is not here. You need to move on, and you need to go to another space and follow the light and all that kind of stuff. And sure enough, she left, and it was over. And then we turned the lights on right then and there, because I thought, I don't want camera trickery going on. And sure enough, we looked in the camera, and you could see the silhouette of a little girl with a petticoat who had her arms around my waist.
Wow.
And to have that back and to look at that again, I would love it. But who knows
where that
ended
up. Did they contact you, or you had brought it to their attention? That
no,
hey,
they came to me, and they said, hey, we want to do this story. Would you be interested? I'm like, yeah, it's Halloween. It's for October. We'll do a little spook story for you.
Yeah.
But it turned a little more real than I was expecting.
Wow, that is, and you said JFK stayed there days before?
I believe it was 2 days before. We have pictures in the Cortez, or they used to be downstairs. We did a story on it, where JFK was there 2 days before he was shot. And you know, he left here and went to Fort Worth, I believe, and was in the hotel at Fort Worth, and then went to Dallas and was killed there.
Wow.
But
there's pictures of that?
There are. There are pictures. There were. I'm sure they're still there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting to find evidence.
They're in the bottom level. They're up on the wall.
Yeah.
On the bottom level by the elevators. Kind of an elevator.
Wow. And was it Jackie and?
No, it was just JFK, and he was standing out on the balcony, looking out to the crowd. Yeah, it's a really cool picture.
Wow. So that's really interesting. We'll definitely have to look at that one. Right. I didn't even know he had any type of history here in El Paso. Mm-hmm. So it's always cool to learn more. When people ask you, what's the best place to eat in El Paso, what do you tell them?
Oh my gosh, you're getting me in so much trouble right now.
Well, when friends come from out of town and they ask you for a recommendation, what's a place that you like to tell them?
Oh, I'm going to get fired. So I'm going to give a shout out to everybody that knows me, knows 2 times a week you can find me in this restaurant. And it's because it's like a friend's spot. So it depends, you know, are you going high end? Are you going mid end? Where are you going? All right. So there's so many levels. Are we going to do Mexican food? Are we going to, but I will tell you where my hangout is. Also, it's on my way home. So we stay in our bubble.
Yeah.
We stop, have class.
You can tell me that one, and then you can tell me like when people are coming to El Paso and they want to have like authentic El Paso food.
Okay. Too. All right. Well, Pelicans is my hangout.
Cool.
Because I'm just comfortable there.
Okay.
And it's on my way home. And I've been going there for 10 years. L&J's great.
Yes.
Choppi's is phenomenal.
Yes.
Yeah,
those would probably be my choices as well when I tell people like go there, you're gonna feel El Paso.
Choppi's is, if you haven't been to Choppi's lately, the red sauce is to die for. And my mother-in-law makes great red sauce, but I'm going to tell you why. Choppi's can battle with her on that. We probably, I go a lot.
Choppi's.
I love Choppi's. And you never know what you're going to walk into. You walk into the cowboys, you walk into the bikers, and nobody cares. Yeah,
definitely El Paso classics. What do you think, why do you think people are so crazy about Chico's Tacos here in El Paso?
Oh, you're going to kill me on that one, too. I don't know. I don't get it.
Neither do I.
I don't get it. It's kind of watery for me.
Yeah.
Oh, Chico's Tacos hates me today. I don't know. I mean, maybe, you know, we say it's good, and we believe it's good, and we keep going. But I don't necessarily like to eat out of paper plate stuff, paper boats. And,
is it because it's like an El Paso thing, I guess?
You know, everybody says they have to go once. I don't know. I mean, go Choppi's. They've survived a long time, so I hate this. But I don't think it's the authentic that, you know, Grandma made.
Yeah, definitely. I know a lot. Chico's Tacos is a topic that we bring up a lot. For some reason, it just gets people like, you know, they love to talk about it back and forth. And some people that really love it and some people that are like, no, definitely not. But I just curious because you've been here for some time. You
know, any business that can stay a business as long as they're doing something right. I don't know, maybe it's just great marketing. I don't know. But you got to give them kudos.
Yeah.
Good thing we all have different taste buds.
For sure. It's
yeah, you got me in huge trouble today. Huge.
I told you I was going to ask you El Paso questions. What do you think? What do you prefer, tacos or tamales?
Tacos.
What kind of tacos?
I like a meat taco for sure with guacamole and cheese and no onions. Nice.
All right, cool. So I know we're coming up. We've been at this for about an hour, and I want to kind of start wrapping it up. But I had a question that I was really curious about. Like, what do you think about AI today and where it's going?
You know, I don't think it matters what I think. I think at the end of the day, it's going. I think it's here and it's going and it's ahead of us. And, you know, we have a lot of people that can say, oh, there's a whole lot of negative to it. Well, I think there was negative when Ford decided that he was going to start building cars, you know, but it came and it happened. And I think as long as we don't lose our mindset to be able to creatively do things ourselves, that if it can teach us something, great. If it can fine tune us, great. But to think that we would put people out of business and out of jobs because we're relying on something robotic, that might be the wrong terminology.
Yeah.
I think that we've got to be really scared with that. But anything that can help us be smarter than we were and to put out a better product, as long as it's still humans involved,
yes,
I'm good.
Yeah, no, it's something that blows my mind every time I look into another software. And I told you I wanted to show you something that I thought was really cool.
Okay.
And this technology, I think, is just changing the way we do things, the way we consume. I know you're innovating things with the magazine, and you know, I wanted to show you this piece. The app is called Notebook LM, and it's by Google.
Okay.
And what this does is it summarizes, and I think that's what we're getting to, a place where people are going to consume something and they want to know summary. Even, you know, today I found a few days ago, over the last few weeks, I've been finding myself watching the NFL on YouTube, and they're doing like a summary of the game, and it's really cool. Like, if you miss the game, it's a really cool way to go back to look at the game.
Synopsis.
Yeah, it's just like a 15-minute like breakdown, but it's like the plays, but it's like speeding through the plays, right? Wow. So this Sebastian showed me yesterday this app, or this program called Notebook LM. And Sebastian, if you want to bring it forward. This is Sebastian.
Here we go. Hi, Sebastian.
And so what Sebastian did was he went onto your website, and he pulled one article from your website, and he put it into Notebook LM, and it created a podcast out of your article.
Stop it.
Yes. So let me play this for you. See what you think.
I want to see.
Ever imagine yourself at like a sporting event, but it's also like a rock concert
and like a massive family reunion all rolled into one?
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty hilarious.
Buckle
too.
up, because today we're diving into the world of the Borderland Roller Derby League in El Paso, Texas.
El Paso isn't exactly known for being a roller derby mecca, is it?
Right. You don't typically picture like the Wild West and roller derby in the same thought.
And what makes BRD even more interesting is that they're one of only a handful of banked track leagues in the whole country.
Seriously, only 11 established ones in the entire U.S., according to this article from the City magazine called the Borderland Roller Derby League. Fun, fast, and fierce.
It's such a unique aspect of their story. The banked track really sets them apart.
For sure. Okay, so picture this. It's 2006. A group of women in El Paso who love roller derby realized the closest league is a road trip away in Austin.
So they took matters into their own hands.
Yep. Instead of just joining a team, they formed their own league, the Borderland Roller Derby League, or BRD as everyone calls it.
Talk about dedication. Building something from the ground up like that really speaks to...
I wasn't going to play the whole thing because but it's amazing, because it basically takes an article, it takes anything, and it'll create a podcast out of it. And Sebastian and I, we've been having conversation about like, well, how do we use this? First of all, for note taking. I know they're using it for like emails, and Apple's just been rolling out their commercials on, being able to take your email and break it down into just telling you what it's about without you having to read the whole email, right? But Sebastian was saying, like, I see us putting, like, you have an article and then having a link to a podcast where people can hear a podcast about the article.
Wow.
So there's a lot of really cool uses, but this is, the AI stuff that we get, where yesterday we were just blown away, and we're just like, come check this out and look at this, and what do you think about this? And we put our website in there, and it basically roasted us.
Oh no!
of what our website was lacking, but it gave me a lot of really good insight to what we need to do. It's like it was saying that we have a lot of services, but that saying like jack of all trades, master of none. Yeah. So it was roasting us, and it made a lot of sense, and it opened my eyes to like, hey, we need to go in and put some examples of our work. But really interesting on how this is going to be used, how note-taking is being used now. So I thought it would be fun to share it with you, since you're an editor. And
love it. I love it. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it's mind-blowing.
Yes. Yeah. So it's something that I do see that, like, how do our writings evolve, right? And how can we tell that story? It can read our story or our article and then create something out of our article, which will then enhance the article, So I thought it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Again, you just hope that people don't learn the skill set or leave the skill set, and just rely completely on AI.
Yes.
You hope that you still keep your skill set and just doctor it up or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's a new world. It's changing, and seeing this technology and where it's going to go. I'm excited to see where it's going to be going in the next 5 to 10 years. But I can see, it's just how creative you get with that.
Yeah.
Like, what can I use this for? How can it enhance my work and stuff like that? But I thought,
love it.
Yeah,
well, that was a good surprise.
Well, Shelly, it was a pleasure having you on the show today. We covered a lot of topics, and it was good to get to know you on another level. I thank you for doing the podcast, and look forward to chatting with you in the future as well. And I would just want to let everybody know, make sure you guys go pick up and support the City Magazine. It's one of the magazines that really pushes our local city, and it like Shelly was saying, it puts a spotlight on those unsung heroes and those people that are in our community doing great things. And I love what you do, and keep doing it because, the city needs it. So
thank you. We love what we do. Can I do a really quick shameless
Absolutely.
plug on my podcast?
Absolutely, do that.
So
yes, because I forgot to even mention, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
And we can run it before I close off. I just want to let everybody know too that Shelly has a new podcast. It's called Shell Shocked, right?
Shell Shocked with Shelly Mozelle. That's how you find it.
And I did watch the first episode that's out there. And I think it's going to be a great podcast, and I really urge people to go and check it out as well. I think it's going to be a great extension of the magazine. So definitely, if you want to, I'm sorry I cut you off, but if you want to go ahead and put that point in and tell people about it.
It's really easy. It's Shell Shocked with Shelly Mozelle, and it's easy if you want to find it, follow City Magazine, and you'll definitely see us in the feed on any of our social medias.
Yes.
And it's just all about, actually, it's kind of a woman's piece. We're talking about women and how to help women grow. We love, by the way, I love men. So it's not an attack of men, but it's just helping women. And I don't know, it's really exciting. And I'm showcasing a lot of the business women around town and how they got to where they are, and the falls and the ups and the downs. And, you look all good right here, but really things happened before you got there. So that's what it is.
Absolutely. I think more women from El Paso need to hear that so that we can empower women. It's something that I push for my daughter all the time, and I was raised by my mom. She raised 3 boys, and so I'm all about that and empowering, and I'm empowering just our community as a whole. So I'm looking forward to it, and anything I can do ever to help with it, let me know.
I'll take some coaching from you all day long.
Thank you, Shelly. I appreciate you coming on, and that's it, guys. It's another episode of Monster Talks. Look forward to the next episode, and see you guys on the next one. Thanks.